came up on Saturday.
Quite a nice day, isn't it?
I compared to last week. Surprised I haven't died with the flu yet.
Not very well.
No, just had about 20 million breakdowns.
Nice strong sunshine.
David Goldman there, so we work with Johanna photography staff on activity, research activity, trying to sort of connect what the practice of the students and staff to the photographic sector. So opportunities for exhibiting, do a lot in terms of commissioning new work, fundraising to support photographers to make new work, professional development for photographers, exhibitions, and talks, conferences, various different things over the years. Before that, many moons ago, I was project officer on a research project initiative called the International Photography Research Network. And this exhibition comes from that time. So the department, Northern Centre of Photography, has commissioned photography for over 20 years, going back to the late 90s, as a means to, again, connect work that happens here to photographers' work nationally and internationally, and sort of try and create opportunities really for investment in new practice. So from 2004 to 2007 we had a European funded project, back in the days when I had access to European funds. There was a fund called Culture 2000, and we managed to secure money for a 3-year project, which was the first and I think the only photographic project funded by that scheme, which was about what they used to call intercultural dialogue or social mobility, inviting photographers to make new work in other countries in Europe, but also beyond. So University of Sunderland was the coordinator, but we worked very closely with our core partners, Museum Folkwang in Germany and Essen. Essen's twinned with Sunderland, has quite a similar sort of industrial history, has a fantastic museum there, which has a huge photographic collection, and has the Ruhr Museum is like an industrial sort of history museum. We also work with a documentary photography agency in the Netherlands called Paradox, University of Leiden in the Netherlands, in Finland, in Jyväskylä, in gallery there, a house of photography in Slovakia. So these were our kind of core partners, and then as the project progressed, we invited other largely galleries, museums, but also universities in other countries in Europe and beyond, into Asia and into South America, to partner. So the project was work. So it was called Changing Faces, the project, but actually it was around kind of work, what work looked like in Europe and in expanding Europe and beyond, from 2004 to 7. So a lot of as you go around, you see a lot of the work is around kind of sites of industry and how they're changing. A lot of the places were moving from kind of heavy sort of industry and traditional industry into sort of some of the new sort of service industries, moving away from things like extraction, away from coal, away, looking at things like shipbuilding and how that was changing, and also around kind of identity of workers and what that looked like in Europe and beyond, in a time when the European Union was expanding and bringing on new countries like Slovakia, Lithuania and others. So that's the kind of premise. So this collection has been held at the university since 2007. There are 18 bodies of work in it. I think there's just 9 in this show. So we decided to get these bodies of work out and see what they look like after so long. To say a lot of them actually look pretty good. And try and pull it together a sort of a smaller show, really. So thinking about kind of thematic connections between work. Some of the decisions we made about presentation was about what's survived in terms of condition. But also thinking about this space in here and what might resonate here. We kind of mentioned that Sunderland having this quite similar industrial past to some of the countries and some of the places involved. We see here, we're right on the weir, where hundreds of years of history of shipbuilding, of glassmaking, and not too far away of coal mining and the collieries. So we're thinking through kind of what made sense here as well. So I'm happy to talk to you about each body of work, or do you want to have a look around and then a couple of minutes and then we can do that, or shall I just tour around? What would you like to do?
Good to have a bit of insight into the work.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah,
If you don't
okay.
mind.
Yeah.
If we have time.
Absolutely, yeah.
Grateful.
So this body of work on the back wall was made by a French photographer, Vincent Ban, who was visiting Slovakia. Vincent was working in documentary, in photography and no documentary practice. He comes from a documentary practice. And he was interested in Slovakia, how they were moving from some of their traditional industries were around farming and around working with the land. Also, this kind of history from probably kind of mid-20th century of capitalising on the thermal spas that they have in Slovakia. They have a huge amount of these thermal spas that people, and it's a massive, big sort of tourism, big sort of tourist attraction for people to go. So this image here is quite reminiscent of things like Wet n Wild. You get one of these people down in the North Shields. So we started to sort of think about how these shifts were occurring, and started to make these quite surreal images, which kind of, I suppose, echo photo montage. Slovakia was formerly part of the Soviet Union, so had been somewhere that had been communist for a very long time. So I think that's one of the starting points for kind of using that approach. So it's quite an early example of someone using digitally manipulating photographs using Photoshop. At the time it was quite new. So he's looking at kind of the move to new industries. So they've got huge car manufacturing in Slovakia now, Kia cars coming from Slovakia, so it's become quite a... So he's thinking through what are the traditional industries that people would have gone into, and then what are they doing now, what are the kind of opportunities for them now. And there's a certain amount of, as I say, humour with some of those. In fact, he hadn't finished his MA, so he was studying his photography MA, I think in The Hague, and went to Iceland. Again, he's thinking about how the traditional industries there were changing. Traditional fishing businesses, which were largely family run, where you might imagine generations upon generations of people would, families would go into, but now we're becoming much bigger business, and a lot of the workers who were involved in this industry were coming from places like Lithuania. So the sort of face of the workforce was changing. So some of the people who just photographed here are workers from Eastern Europe and places like Lithuania that were coming across. And again, thinking about, I suppose there's a slight hint of them becoming sort of almost faceless in terms of how it's got this kind of grid format and sort of thinking about it's becoming a bit more removed from their sort of personalised stories. He was interested in the young people that were from this particular village. A lot of portraiture, and so it's looking at kind of different generations and families who are kind of still working in this industry, but also living where they're working. So a lot of them living in the dockyards at an area just outside of Amsterdam. Within this piece and by people photographed. These are actually taken from these individual works. There's 3 different people featured, and they're taken from bigger pieces. They're taken from triptychs that show the house worker, the sort of domestic worker on one side, and then the wealthy homeowner, and the fact that it was a huge employer. Sadly, which is, I think there was, I wrote down something. She said, she says in the book, definitely one of the biggest employees in South Africa. And on that as well. Yeah, and lots of other aspects in terms of sort of flavour.
So you went through files and you reprinted them?
No, to be honest, I don't have the files. Very few cases I've got files. I've got files where photographers sent them on for publicity purposes. But I don't have, we didn't have, and we didn't really have the time. So we decided to have a look at this work over the summer, and then had about a week to get it out in here and get it on the walls.